What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is good to see you. If you've been here before and this is your first time here, it is nice to meet you. My name is Dr. Brandon Osborne. I'm the Director of Training here at Momentum WOD. I'm a StrongFirst certified kettlebell instructor and a doctor of chiropractic with about 10 years of clinical experience helping athletes manage their musculoskeletal injuries in private practice. Christmas season is upon us. Today is, I think, December 22nd. And the holidays are in full swing, and for that reason today I have a special gift for you. We are going to be looking at the strength training routine of one of your favorite mixed martial arts athletes, and we are going to be breaking down that routine, letting you know what we like, what we don't like, and what you can take to utilize in your own routine to make it safer and more effective. Today's subject is going to be somebody who we took a glance at in a past video, somebody who has had a lot of success in the UFC, who is a middleweight, who has fought for the title before, and is a superstar in his own right. Today we're going to be looking at the kettlebell training technique of none other than Paulo Costa. Paulo was featured in one of our past videos where we looked at some of the strangest exercises that mixed martial artists utilize in their strength training routines, and I think Paulo won the contest for having the weirdest exercise. If you want to check out that video, click the link above and you can take a look at what Paulo was doing in that video. In today's video, we're going to try to be a little bit more concise. We are going to look at the entirety of Paulo's strength training routine, but we're going to focus in on one exercise in particular, and that exercise is the kettlebell swing. It is an exercise that can be the cornerstone of your strength training routine, where you can literally build an entire routine off this exercise and one or two other supplemental movements. I mentioned earlier I'm a StrongFirst certified kettlebell instructor. StrongFirst has built a program, a training program, where you literally use two exercises, one of which is the kettlebell swing. If you're interested in learning more about that program, I'll leave a link to their book below where you can brush up on your swing technique and the other exercise involved in that simple and sinister program. Without further ado, I think I've talked enough. Let's take a look at Paulo Costa's strength training routine for mixed martial arts. So all of these videos were found off of Paulo's Instagram. If you don't follow him, make sure you give him a follow, show him some love. And the intent of us going through this, like I mentioned earlier, is not to put down Paulo, so to speak, but to be constructive and provide some feedback so you can better what you're doing at home. And maybe if Paulo sees this, he can better what he's doing so he can be safer and more effective with his training. So the first video we're looking at here, Paulo is performing some goblet squats. It looks like he's doing so after he had a surgery. I believe he tore his biceps a few years ago. So he's performing some very simple exercises as a way to stay active while he's recovering from that injury. So Paulo incorporates a lot of functional movements into his strength training. Here we see him haloing a plate around his head, which is an exercise that you can perform with a kettlebell as well if you only have that piece of equipment at home. And in fact, I'd actually prefer to do it with a kettlebell because I think it provides more benefit from a stabilization standpoint. I think you have to work harder to stabilize the kettlebell as opposed to the plate when performing that movement. But it's a great movement either way, regardless of how you would want to do it. And it's one that will build core stability while keeping your spine in a neutral position, which is often something we do incorrectly when we're training our cores. Paulo's going into some chest presses, some renegade rows. He operates at a very high speed. I don't know if you noticed that while watching his routine. He seems to move very with a lot of intent. He's not messing around with his strength training. He's an intense guy. Okay, so this is the video I really want to focus in on, and this is Paulo performing kettlebell swings. He's performing a one-arm swing, and what I want to do is I want to break down the different parts of the swing. We're going to separate out into three different parts, what is called the hike, the upswing, and the backswing. Let's kick it off from the top. Paulo is starting his set. He's counting out the reps. We didn't see him hike the bell, so that would be the first thing I would say. I don't know if he did or didn't, but that is the way you want to get your set started. It's going to make it safe for you to initiate that powerful movement. It's going to keep your low back safe. It's going to keep your core safe, and it's going to initiate your set in a way where you can generate the most power possible. So as we're looking at Paulo performing the upswing portion of this movement, which is the second component I said I wanted to talk about, I think it's evident, and this is an error that we've seen in videos past. He's turned this exercise, which is supposed to be a posterior chain exercise, meaning that you're using your hamstrings and your glutes to generate a majority of the power, into an upper body exercise. The upper body, the purpose of your arms in this movement are strictly to guide the kettlebell along a trajectory, along its arc, and to stabilize, to prevent the kettlebell from going over your head or swinging out of control. So Paulo is almost performing like a front dumbbell raise or a front kettlebell raise, as opposed to a kettlebell swing. He's using too much shoulder, too much upper extremity activation, and he's not getting the benefits that you would want out of this exercise. When you're going through your upswing, what I want you to think of is driving those feet into the ground so you can create powerful extension of the legs. Your arms shouldn't be doing anything at this point. You're driving your feet into the ground, hips are extended, and then once the hips are extended, that should generate the power to force that kettlebell through the upswing. So your arms literally aren't doing anything but guiding the bell as your hips power it upwards. Once the bell is at the top of the upswing, you're in a tall standing neutral position. It should resemble something like a plank. So you're very straight in your orientation. From there, once again, the bell is floating out in front of you. You're going to let that bell fall, fall, fall. You're going to be patient in that descent as you're beginning that backswing until the point where your elbows contact your rib cage. Once that happens, you're sending your hips back. You're initiating a hip hinge, and you're sending the bell high and tight through your legs. When you watch Paulo do it, he's squatting before the elbow contacts the rib cage. And as a result, the bell is going really low between his legs. And then he's forced to do those compensations that we mentioned earlier to get the bell back through the upswing. So there's no power there. It's just strength, just brute strength, just powering, pulling the bell through the upswing rather than powering it with his legs. So elbows contact the rib cage, you send your hips back. It should be a very brief hip hinge. You should be moving through that hip hinge very quickly in the least amount of, you want to be in that position the least amount of time possible. Those hips are sent back, and then from there you initiate the upswing for the next repetition. For Paulo, what I would suggest, and if you find yourself doing this, I would recommend the same sort of things. I don't think he's ready for this exercise. I think he needs somebody to coach him in terms of technique to work through a hip hinge. And the way I would do that would be starting with something like a deadlift. Whether he's using a kettlebell or a barbell, those principles will apply and transfer when performing this movement. So you want to understand a hip hinge. You want to make sure you're doing it safely and correctly before moving into a one-arm kettlebell swing. After he works through that deadlift, I think a two-arm swing is the next progression, and then from there he can work into a one-arm swing. But he's not there yet. He needs to learn how to perform the movements safely and correctly before initiating a more difficult ballistic exercise like a one-arm swing. That is the basic feedback that I would provide with Paulo when performing this exercise. I like to see that he's incorporating a lot of functional movements into his strength training routine. I like to see that he's utilizing kettlebells, but I just think that somebody needs to coach him and guide him a little bit more so than what he's getting right now. Obviously, he's a very powerful guy, and I think that if he was doing these exercises correctly, he could be even more powerful, more explosive, and more dynamic as a combat sports athlete. And that does it for my technique critique of kettlebell swings with Paulo Costa. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've found value in this video. And if you have, I would encourage you to hit the subscribe button, leave me a comment below. Let me know who or what you want to see me talk about in our next video. I mentioned at the beginning of this video that this is the season for gifts, and for that reason, I have left a free kettlebell training ebook in the description below and a free 7-day trial to our kettlebell performance training program for combat sports athletes. You can click the links in the description below. They are both free. All you need is an email to sign up. I hope you take advantage. With that being said, my name is Dr. Brandon Osborne from Momentum WOD. I have enjoyed doing this video. I hope you've enjoyed it as well. I hope you found value in it, and I hope to see you back here soon. With that being said, a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holidays, and I will catch you next time. All the best.